Janice ready to take over. Hi everyone, I'm Janice, and first of all I'd like to thank Alex and Owen and the Creative Mornings team for inviting me to speak, and thank you all for getting up bright and early and coming to listen. So I'm a choreographer and producer based in Edinburgh, originally from Australia, which you might have picked up, and I am the artistic director of a contemporary dance company called Janice Claxton Dance, and I'm also choreographer in residence with Creative Edinburgh. As a choreographer, I work internationally across a wide range of community, professional, and educational sectors. And I make work for theatre spaces, and I make work for public spaces as well. I just wanted to ask about magic powers. How many people, I'm going to segue here a little bit, how many people had a magic power that was to do with something altruistic? Come on, there were more of you, you're just kind of shy. And how many people had a magic power that was to do with flying or levitating? Or, yeah, this is interesting. And how many people had a magic power that was to do with controlling time? Yeah, flying and controlling time were the most ones I read. Anyway, it was fun going around and reading a lot of people's tags. So if I had a magic power, it's not actually, doesn't sound as exciting as some of yours, but if I had a magic power, it would be to bring great dancing experiences to the whole world. So I'm a bit of a hippie, really. So that's what my magic power would be. And so today I'm going to talk about something that has fueled and inspired me for several years, which is the idea and the practice of taking contemporary dance, good dance, to public spaces and the magic of the accidental audience. So I have created several works for public spaces, the first one being the award-winning Enclosure 44 Humans, which was the human exhibit in the Edinburgh Zoo in 2008 and recreated in 2011. This was a time where, actually I should put my first slide up, there you go. Just wanted you to see something beautiful rather than my name up there. This was a performance where 5, sometimes more, humans, dancers, were inside an Edinburgh Zoo enclosure for the entire 2 weeks of run of the Fringe, from 9 a.m. in the morning till 5 for the zoo opening hours. And it was an exploration of the complicity between human and the differences between human and non-human primates behaviour. The next piece we did in 2013 was called Chaos and Contingency, which was a large-scale dance piece designed specifically for Scotland's museum and gallery spaces. We performed at the National Museum of Scotland, the Aberdeen Art Gallery, and Kelvin Grove Art Gallery. And this piece was based on mathematical, emergent theories in mathematics, so it was all about patterns, and it was designed so people could look at it from above and look down at the beautiful patterns that were created. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is Pop-Up Duets, which is my latest work that I'm most excited about. Pop-Up Duets, Fragments of Love, was a series of 9 5-minute love duets created for public spaces. It was recently performed at the National Museum of Scotland as part of the Made in Scotland showcase for the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we also performed at Merchant City Festival in galleries and libraries in Fife, at bespoke events for Dance Base, Creative Scotland, the Scottish Government, and Creative Edinburgh. So it was a very versatile piece that could shift to different places. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my inspirations and some of the process of pop-up duets, and hopefully that will be interesting for you. So why pop-up duets? The first thing is the experience I had with Chaos and Contingency and the zoo work, and we also took the zoo work to several other places, including the World Expo in Shanghai, in a big public park area. The experience of that was that I learnt that there's a huge, a really huge audience of contemporary dance lovers, but they just don't know it yet. Some of you I know are dance people, so you know this, and some of you don't know that dance is not an easy sell. It's hard to get bums on seats. This is a huge audience for dance, by the way, thank you. Whoa. I mean, you know what I mean. It's kind of cool, like, wow. And it's not easy. It's not an art form that people gravitate to very easily, and it's a hard sell often. So what we learnt with those big public works is that loads of people love dance, contemporary dance, they want to see it, they want to be up close and personal with it, but they probably would never buy a ticket to go to it. With the zoo work, the first year we were there, 60,000 people visited the zoo in the 2 weeks that we were there. And our enclosure was in such a place that most of the zoo visitors had to walk past it. So we figured at least half of them actually stopped and engaged with the work, probably more. With Chaos and Contingency in the museums, we estimated over 10 performances, it's not ticketed, so we couldn't say exactly, but about 5,000 people saw the work. So this became really exciting, not just because of the numbers, like the big numbers, but because of how much engagement we got and how much we were opening up audiences. So I decided after that, I still love to make work for theatre spaces. If anyone's got a commission, I'm open. But I really wanted to just continue taking the work to the audience rather than trying to get the audience to the work. The other thing that was interesting about this is the vast demographic of the places that we were visiting. So a zoo and a museum, especially in a place like Scotland where museums are free, go Scotland, has a really vast demographic of visitors. People of all ages, of all abilities, of all religions, of all ethnicities, all sorts of people go to a museum and a zoo. So this was very exciting as well. Another thing that was an inspiration was the up close and personal element. So with the zoo work, we had a glass wall between us and the audience. If you want to see more of that, there's loads of it on my website, but I had too many slides to show you today, so I didn't bring it up. And with Chaos and Contingency, we demarcated out a 10 by 10 floor space that the audience weren't supposed to go in. Some kids did, but to their own risk. And some parents don't pull them back out, but anyway. It was kind of scary for moments. But there was a separation of the audience and the performer. So I wanted to make a work where the dance evolved or emerged out of the audience. And you'll see some more of this as we go on, because I'm going to show you lots of lovely visuals. And the next thing, oh yeah, this one. I better move around for this one. Kinesthetic learners. So when you go to a theatre, you sit like this. You all can move around if you want, yeah? We have to sit and watch and be quiet and watch an hour of dance or whatever it is. And there's a lot of people in the world like myself who are kinesthetic beings. I'm a kinesthetic activist. I have to move, I have to touch things, I have to smell things and bite things. I have to do things with my physicality in order to experience the world. I can't sit for very long and read things. So unless it's a screen, that's sort of changing my way, unfortunately. So there's a lot of people like this, and I really feel that that affects the way people read dance and how they experience it. So I wanted to make a piece of work where people could move around during the work and experience the work with their kinesthetic mode in action. So yay for the kinesthetic learners. That's what I'm trying to help you all with. There's a lot of you out there, I know it. The next thing that was my inspiration is the duet form. I'm been really interested in making duet material for quite a while. I tend to hone my work into one thing. I studied chimpanzees for a long time, and that was and other primates, but the chimps are kind of the coolest and the meanest. They are. And now my work is really focused around a duet form. And the duet work that we make is based on an improvisational form, which is to do with the philosophy and idea that everything we do in the world is a reaction to or because of other. So nothing is created solely for ourselves, by ourselves. Everything is a collaborative process. Everything is in relation to other. So the work that we did was the improvisational form to create the material was based on action and reaction. And so the dancers moved only because they were being moved or because they moved towards somebody to interact with them. So it was a real co-creation process that created all of the material. The material couldn't exist on its own. The dance couldn't exist on its own. It is really about those two people together. And with this, I just became really interested in the idea of love duets because I wanted to share some love, and I just think we need that. And it doesn't happen often. There's been a bit of a trend in contemporary dance. It's shifting now, but especially in the 80s and 90s, everything was mean and people were beating each other up and throwing each other on the floor and throwing themselves on the floor and hurting themselves and doing all this. And I thought, I just want to change that up a little bit and share some love in the world. I also, with duet material, some of you may know this, but often it's man, woman, male and female, and the male in dance, the man is strong and muscular, and the woman is a beautiful, sylphy, wafy thing that gets floated around by the big, strong man, and ugh. So, I'm just over it. So, we have a partnering process, and that is very much about, there's different ways that the different size bodies, be it male or female, can carry the weight of a heavier body. And it's a lot to do with using the skeleton and the bone structure and not trying to, show off your muscle power. And I wanted to show the power and the strength, and as well as the softness and delicacy in both the male and female dancers. So, and also to break up the heteronormative couplings that usually happen in dance duets, especially in ballet. It's shifting a little bit now, but it's usually a male and a female duet. Also in a lot of partnering dance forms, it's usually male and female. So we wanted to change that up a bit. So I had 4 dancers, and with 4 dancers, you have the possibility of 6 couplings. Took me a while to work that out, but you do. I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to introduce you to the beautiful dancers, one of whom is in the audience somewhere here. Christina? Great. You're coming up. Okay, so this is Adrienne and Jimmy. This is Jimmy and Carlos. Christina and Jimmy. Adrienne and Christina. Carlos and Adrienne. And Christina and Carlos. So they were the 6 couplings of dancers that we had, and each couple had 1 or 2 duets, depending on our rehearsal process and time. So I just wanted to talk about how we made these duets a little bit. And it was really a collaborative process, and a lot to do with the collaboration with the dancers, which I've spoken about a little bit, and you'll see a lot of them as well. But really importantly was my collaboration with Pippa Murphy, who I'm very excited about working with. Pippa is one of Scotland's top composers for theatre and dance. And Pippa and I had worked previously with the Scottish Opera on their Commonwealth project. So we'd worked with opera, and then we had this project, and we wanted to change things. And working with the opera was great. Not any commissions, yes, I'm open. But we wanted to make something that we didn't really know how to phrase it, but that was a little bit more commercial, accessible, open to a wider public, a wider demographic of people than people who just go to opera. So we decided within the framework, I wanted to make the short duets. That was also to do with reaching a general public. I think a lot of people have shorter attention spans as we advance through technology. And so I wanted to make really short things that could capture people's attention rather than having them have to sit still for an hour to watch contemporary dance. So we decided to make an album of tracks. So we had an album of music tracks which went together with what I'm calling the album of dance duets. So I felt a bit like a pop star, actually. It was kind of cool. And it's very different in contemporary dance to make work like that. People don't make this kind of thing like an album. So that was really fun. And we wanted to make music that had beats, and lyrics as well aren't always used in contemporary dance. So we wanted to have lyrics that people could relate to around the theme of love. And the other thing that happened with that was Pippa invited Catherine Joseph to sing on some of the tracks. So Catherine Joseph is the 2015 Scottish Album of the Year award winner. If you haven't heard of her, go listen. Songs are on YouTube and Spotify. She's fabulous. And Catherine agreed to sing Pippa's lyrics on 3 of the tracks, and she has an exquisite voice that gave a lot of depth and richness to the work, and you'll hear a little bit of that track at the end, and we will be releasing the music on iTunes before too long. And then the material that we worked with was this idea that I wanted of the dancer rising out of the audience was really important to me. So we played with love duets and love and intimacy and the way that a couple, it didn't always have to be lovers, but people who like each other at least, sitting together and may interact in a physical way. We worked with a dramaturg who's also here in the audience, Clive, and the dramaturg helped us in finding this dramatic connection between what's happening with a public audience and what's happening with the dance. And so he went around the museum observing, it's a bit rude really, observing couples and how they were interacting in the museum, taking photos and videos of them. Whoops. Probably, can you cut that when you... Anyway, but that was really interesting, just watching how people were interacting in a normal way in the museum. And all of our duets started in this kind of very casual, we're in a public place, we're just human beings here, and they evolved into dance. And you'll see how that works in a little bit, hopefully. And then with that came the unpredictable magic of the accidental audience, which was really exciting for us, that people unsuspectingly became part of the performance. So they became part of the performance by being in the frame of the other people viewing the performance. And sometimes they realized it, sometimes they didn't. So they could move away. We didn't do it in an intimidating way. We didn't want to start jumping up and down and make people feel insecure. It was done in a very gentle, slightly subversive way, I guess, that they became involved in the performance. So, and also because sometimes they didn't move, and so the dancers often had to change their material. So I'm just going to show you a few little storylines of this accidental audience thing that happened. So this is Christina with this lovely, very tall man who had no clue that Carlos was about to join her for a performance, but he started to realize. By this point, there's a whole bank of people starting to go, oh, there's the duet, and watching over at him. Then he has a little lovely complicité with his friend, and they both realize, we're in this. Would have been cool if they started doing a duet, but anyway, maybe that's the next thing. And by now he realizes it. And I think he was from China because I heard him talking, and then he started videoing it like crazy, and he was just stayed there for the whole piece, and so I'm sure that that is all over WeChat in China by now. Sorry, Christina. If anyone knows this man, please introduce me because I want to take him some flowers. He ended up accidentally being in our performance twice. He was so sweet, and he was obviously a regular visitor to the museum. At the end of this performance, I sat next to him because I just wanted to check that he was okay, because he really became a part of it, and he was just like, oh, this museum, the things that happen. I've never seen anything like that happen before. So he still has no idea. But the other thing is, when I sat there, I spoke to the woman, and she said, oh, I was just trying to find somewhere quiet outside the madness of the festival, and look where I land. But she stayed there for the whole performance, continuing to do her work on her phone. Jimmy's sitting there. Jimmy and Carlos, this duet is usually quite boisterous. It's called Man, and it's pretty much a guy's play dance, and they had to really tone it down. They were aware of his evident age and his probable fragility, and they were like, oh man, what are we going to do? So they changed a lot of the material in this duet so that they weren't so boisterous. He's beautiful. This is the same duet outside the Doghouse in Merchant City Festival, and kind of a different reaction from the people at the bar. And they finally realize there's something going on. I love this picture. This is Adrienne waiting for Christina to come for a duet, this blissfully unaware couple. And this is another day, and these three people you will see, they're aware, and they kind of join in. They finally got off the seat. Like I said, not everyone moves. They got off the seat so that this move was possible, which you'll see later. This is the same dance at Merchant City Festival, and in this picture you can't quite see it, but Adrienne had to go on the other side of the bench because the woman was in the way. And she sat there for the whole, it's only a 5-minute dance, but in the time it seemed like really long. There was about 30 people watching, there was a video camera, I think it was the day the Herald were there were photographers. She knew everything, she was loving it, I'm quite sure. She sat there for the whole thing, and then Christina had to like, whoa, how can we get this move in here, because she's actually in the way. But the dancers did great. They were often adapting and doing wonderful things. These are children because I just couldn't resist putting them on the slides. we had a lot of response from children to the, which we weren't expecting, and babies were loving the work. And this is part of our accidental audience, babies. I'm going to go get them. So stealing babies, but they love it, I know it. And they were just enjoying the work so much, and that a producer for a big children's festival was there, and one day when there were loads of kids, and he just went, right, you're booked. So hopefully we'll be performing at a children's festival soon. This lady, Jackie, she was actually in the newspaper. Christina showed me the article the other day, the Dalgety Bay something or other. This is in Dalgety Bay Library, and Jackie came like literally bouncing up and down with her walking stick, very excited because she had run a dance studio for 40 years in Dalgety Bay. And she was so excited about watching these duets. It was a very small but earnest audience in Dalgety Bay. And you can see that the work can be transported to different environments. And then we finally finished inside the library. Jackie then told us that it was the anniversary of her husband's death, and she'd been to visit his grave that morning, and she was so excited to come to this performance, and that watching these love duets had given her such a healing. So it was really beautiful. Yeah, it was just awesome. She talked to us for half an hour afterwards. She was so excited. So, where am I here? So the last thing I wanted to talk about was collaboration. And I don't know of any good artwork that isn't, at its essence, a collaborative process. And even though Janice Claxton Dance, the company, has my name, it was really, I feel like the most important thing that I did for this work was bring together an absolutely awesome team. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but we called our studio the House of Love because there was such good vibes happening, and there were so many things that happened. I mean, Tao turned up and just started videoing for us one day. We were like, wow, where'd this guy come from? Thanks to Creative Edinburgh. And then another Creative Edinburgh member turned up and started taking photos. And anyway, we would open the door and say, welcome to the House of Love. And they came back, so it was okay. But it was really great. And I think nothing at all can beat a fabulous team, for a collaborative team for a really good creative process. So the team were, apart from all the producers and the sponsors and supporters, who were many, the dancers, the composer, and the musicians who recorded on the album, the dramaturg, costume designer, and photographers and videographers who worked with us. So I'm just going to show you some beautiful photos from the work from some different photographers, and then we're going to see a 2-minute trailer that Tao made for us. Could we have the lights down, please? Not sure how to press play on this.
let go.
Okay. Thank you.